I often wonder how life can pivot on a dime. One moment you're sipping coffee in a cozy diner, head buried in legal papers, and the next you're facing down two officers, one of them being your ex among the glaring eyes of fellow diners. My friend Naya Lawson, today's story is about much more than that unexpected confrontation. It's a journey marked by pain loss and an unwavering resolve that transformed her from a quiet observer of the injustices around her into a powerful voice demanding change. Growing up in Charleston, Naya carried fears most of us can only imagine. Each day, communities of colour dealt with a world rife with systemic injustice, where just stepping outside could mean an encounter with not just the law, but the very real threat of violence. People often told her, "You're too quiet, too soft-spoken. You'll never make waves in a world that thrives on power." And for a long time, those words echoed in her mind. But that was before she lost her friend Marcus, before the betrayal from Grant. The person she once trusted could alter the course of her life forever. As Nia picked that diner right next to the police station, it wasn't just a spot to work. It was a battleground, a strategic move to confront the very architecture of oppression that had haunted her community for years. With every stroke of her pen, she was drafting not just legal documents, but a manifesto of resistance. And trust me, as fate would have it, that diner was about to become a crucible, igniting flames of change that would resonate far beyond that moment. Stick around, you're going to want to hear the incredible truth that emerges from this tale of trial and triumph. The air in Mel's diner was thick with the mingling scents of coffee and fried food. A comfort that felt hollow as I sat there surrounded by the familiar noise but lost in my thoughts. I usually welcome the hustle, the laughter, the mundane rhythm of life in Charleston. But that day, everything felt heavy, as though the walls themselves were closing in, and my heart pounded with a resolve that could barely mask the anger simmering just beneath the surface. "Hey, is everything okay over here?" the waitress asked, her voice laced with concern as she glanced at my legal documents spread out across the table. "Yeah, I'm fine," I assured her, trying to smile even as I struggled to hold back the memories of Marcus, his laughter, his hope, and the betrayal that cut deeper than anything I could have imagined. That betrayal was a jagged knife twisting in a wound that would never fully heal. Then, out of nowhere, the diner door swung open, and in walked two officers, their uniforms stark against the quaint backdrop. I knew one of them all too well, Grant, the man who once held my heart, now a reflection of my worst fears. As I caught his eye, the recognition flickered across his face, yet for a moment he looked right through me like I was invisible, just another suspicious figure to him too. "Ma'am, we've had reports about a suspicious black woman in here," the other officer said, his tone dripping with authority, but the words hung in the air like a threat. Suspicious. I shot back, a burning anger igniting my voice. Is this what's become of serving and protecting, targeting innocent people without even knowing their names? Grant shifted uncomfortably, and I could almost hear the unspoken words swirling in the tension between us, the echoes of our past lingering in the din of the diner. "Nia, this isn't the place," he mumbled, but the weight of his words no longer held dominion over me. "No, Grant." This is exactly the place I declared pain morphing into power as I pulled out my legal documents, letting them slam onto the table with purpose. You helped take away justice for Marcus, but I'm about to make sure you never forget that there are consequences for this culture of silence and complicity. For just a moment, the diner held its breath, waiting for the storm to break. The eyes of the patrons turned towards me, the murmurs hushed, as though an unspoken alliance had formed. In that heartbeat, I knew this was more than just about me. It was about every person who had stood in the shadows, silenced by fear. Get ready, I whispered to myself, filling with conviction. I could feel my voice rising, my heart racing. This was a confrontation that needed to happen for myself, for Marcus, and for everyone who had suffered under an unforgiving system. The air crackled with tension, and I was ready to fight. As Nia sat there in Mel's diner, confronting the looming shadows of justice, she felt a mix of determination and dread. Picture it, a tired cop named Grant thinking he could just have a cup of coffee and squash a small town nuisance before it costs him his day. Well, spoiler alert, nobody was getting a peace break. The moment the officers walked in, all clipped hair and stiff uniforms, Nia braced herself. Oh, the irony. Here she was, the only person in the establishment actually trying to do something about the very folks they represented. What are you doing here? They asked, as if just seeing a black woman sitting quietly in a coffee shop was enough to raise alarms. Good thing she had her legal pad handy. Who knew today would be a casual law school is back in session? Kind of day, but boy did the storm brew. Each time she stood her ground, asserting her rights and throwing around legal terms like confetti, it was met with barely suppressed scoffs. You really think you can take on the police? One snorted, making it seem like she was some kid trying to hold a candle against a hurricane. The disbelief and condescension were thick enough to cut, yet through that thick fog of doubt, her fire flickered. Moments flashed in her memory, the face of Marcus, her father's lessons, the rage over her ex-fiancé betraying every principle she held dear. Each refusal, each dismissive glance from the officers only fueled her indignation. Oh, don't worry, I won't take up too much of your time. Just enough to change your mind about whose side you think you're on. A diner full of patrons stared, half of them rooting for her, the other half just wanting to enjoy their pancakes without the tension. It was like being in a reality show that no one asked to watch. Nia could see a couple smirking as if their morning gossip just took a dramatic turn. A small corner of her felt amused. Welcome to my TED Talk, folks, she thought, realizing this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about everyone who had ever been dismissed, belittled, and ignored. The stakes were rising and the walls of the diner felt like they were closing in. This wasn't just a confrontation. It was the prequel to the battle she was preparing for. A fight against an unyielding beast called systemic injustice. And while self-doubt tried to creep in, she found small sparks within her. Tiny glimmers of resilience that said, this isn't over. Not even close. Because sometimes, after all the frustration, all the rejections, and every moment of public doubt, it only takes one voice to start a cacophony. And Nia was getting ready to scream. Nia's heart raced as the weight of their gazes pressed down on her. Silence loomed. The hum of the diner faded. This isn't right. she whispered, her voice barely above a murmur. But inside, a storm of defiance brewed. The officers shifted, uncertainty hanging in the air. Grant's expression wavered, recognition dawning. Memories replayed, laughter, hopes a future blurred by his betrayal. Nia, you don't get to call me that. Her voice surged steady and fierce. Not after what you did. The documents lay on the table like raw bones, evidence of countless stories told in quiet whispers, cries for justice drowned out. Nia took a breath, filling her lungs with resolve. I'm not just a suspicious woman anymore. I'm here to confront the very system you protect. In that moment, the world shifted. The diner patrons leaned in silent witnesses to her transformation. Their eyes glistened with shared pain and shifting hope. Then came the sound of sirens, an unexpected chorus that resonated deep within her. Federal agents stormed in, authoritative and sharp. They locked eyes with the officers, subpoenas clenched in their hands. The atmosphere sparked, igniting a fire inside Nia. This is bigger than all of us. She breathed, her words igniting a communal heartbeat. It's time for accountability. Tach. From being cornered in quiet despair, Nia found her voice echoing through the walls of Mel's diner. One by one, faces transformed from passive observers to fierce supporters. You could feel the tide turning, momentum shifting from despair to something powerful, something unstoppable. It wasn't just a fight for herself anymore. It was for every voice stifled, every injustice silenced. In that instant, the fleeting spark within Nia caught fire, and with it, so did the collective spirit of a community long tired of silence. This was the turning point. This was the reclamation of power. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the Charleston skyline in hues of orange and purple, Nia Lawson stood in the center of a bustling boardroom, her heart racing not with anxiety but empowerment. This was the culmination of months of relentless work, a legal battle that had transformed more than just her life. It had ignited a fire in the community. The room was filled with attorneys, activists, and journalists, their faces lit by the glow of pending justice. The sound of a cell phone start ringing cut through the air, a name flashing boldly on the screen. A major news outlet requesting a comment after another day of protests sparked by her lawsuit. Nia took a deep breath, pride swelling in her chest as she dialed the number back, ready to share her story. A story that began with silence but now echoed in the halls of power. "I'm ready," she said, her voice steady as cameras clicked away and headlines formed themselves in real time. Her journey filled with betrayal and pain had now transformed her into a beacon of hope. As she ended the call, a quiet smirk slipped onto her face. It was a look that said, "I did it." She glanced at her team, seeing mirrored determination in their eyes. This win wasn't just hers. It was theirs, a testament to every moment spent strategizing, every tear shed, every hurdle overcome together. And then, as if drawn by an invisible thread, she stepped into the sunlight outside the building. The community enveloped her like a warm embrace. Friends and supporters stood waiting, their applause ringing out like a triumphant anthem against the backdrop of a clear blue sky. But even in this moment of victory, Nia felt the weight of the scars that accompanied her journey. This success didn't erase the past. It fortified her resolve to keep fighting, to keep speaking out. Each step forward was still grounded in all of the struggles. Now they felt worth it. A new chapter had begun, but the story of justice was far from over. As the dust settles from Nia Lawson's confrontation, it's clear that this journey has changed her in ways she never anticipated. What began as a silent struggle against oppressive forces evolved into a resolute battle for justice, reinforcing a profound truth that wielding power is not just about enforcing authority, but understanding the immense responsibility that comes with it. Nia learned that trust can be a fragile thread. It can shatter in an instant when betrayal lurks in familiar faces. She stands today not just as a survivor, but as a beacon for those who felt powerless. Yet the question lingers, is revenge ever truly justice? Does seeking to hold those who wronged us accountable reinforce our fight against injustice? Or does it lead us down a darker path, perpetuating a cycle of conflict? The debate is polarizing. Some argue that revenge is a form of reclaiming power, while others contend that it undermines genuine healing and resolution. In Nia's case, the lines blur between justice and revenge. Her fight is not for retribution, but for systemic change. A call for accountability and ethical conduct from those sworn to protect her community. But could this quest for retribution alienate potential allies who fear the consequences of backlash? As we reflect on Nia's inspiring journey, we must consider, in our pursuit of justice, what sacrifices are we willing to make, and is there indeed a fine line between justice and revenge? Share your thoughts or personal experiences with us. Your voice matters, and together we can ignite the change we wish to see in the world. From silence we rise, from struggle we become the change.